How's everybody feeling today? Well, even if you're feeling bad, it's temporary. And it goes for our feeling of wellness too, it's temporary. So this is more about a particular kind of vision, perspective in the untenable now. It doesn't relate to our political ideas or our social ideas or our ideas about ourselves, because those are all dependent upon this scope of story, especially our possessions and our greatest possession, which is the body. So that body is just as reliable as a bamboo shack. I'm on a presence scraper. I am scraping presence. We have to, what we're learning how to do here as a community is to look at direct experience. To look at the here and now. To actually drop the identity that we've built up in the mirror of sometimes it's a real life, sometimes it's an imagined life, but it's just another thing, another possession. That idea that we have about what's outside of this direct experience. So we know, we've learned, we've been taught and raised up in a culture and society, community that has talked about the efficacy of story, the reliability of the past, the reliability of the future. The reliability of what we think about, and shifting the view or shifting the perspective towards the unnecessariness of story, the unnecessariness of thinking. It's a really reliable way to start dealing with our mental health. Kind of like if you're a boat captain on a journey in the ocean. It doesn't matter how good the boat is, it doesn't matter how good the seas are. If you don't have the right perspective about where you are, you're going to be in an untenable situation. Even if you know the right direction to go in, if you don't know where you are, you can't go in that direction. In a certain way, we are all people with disabilities, or people of varying abilities. We all have mental health issues, meaning that suffering or not being satisfied or getting frustrated, being in a state of wanting more, dealing with thoughts that don't necessarily help us. To live the way that we want to live. So we shouldn't apply any kind of taboo to suffering. If anything, we should be a little bit more grateful for suffering. I wish I could read, and I guess I can, but it never seems to work out. There's a wonderful mental health professional and spiritual teacher as well, named Gabor Mate, and he's written a book, bestseller around the world, called The Myth of Normal. So normality is a myth. Well, it's another want. It's another desire that cuts off your access from direct experience. What we're practicing and learning to do here in the now, in the untenable now, in the hopeless now, is to reorient towards our direct experience. We may want to give advice or receive advice, but that's not really what this teaching is about. This isn't about giving and receiving advice. Actually, what we have will never be enough. When we still have this notion of ownership, of possession, there's an inherent seeking that stays with that. Because you have to protect what's yours. You have to protect and keep what's possessed, what's owned. Love is storyless. This is one of the most difficult things to establish ourselves in and to accept and digest. Somehow it's kind of bitter. In part because we've grown up in a culture that puts such a high value onto stories, onto characters, onto identities, onto personas. In a way, we're kind of spiritual or spirit worshipers. We worship spirits. We worship personas. We worship identities. We put them on a pedestal. So when we stop putting other personas, even the ideal persona of ourselves, on a pedestal, we can stop the personification of direct experience. In the untenable now, in the hopeless now, our inability to control our lives is actually a access point for dissolving the life of suffering. And the fixation on identity Hi, Melissa. So, um, the details of the Australian trip are about as solid as the clouds that I'm looking at. So, um, good idea for your son, but let's see about having a Zoom call or a video call together with him, and just so I can check in and see where his mind's at, and we can connect a little bit and see what makes sense. Okay? So let me know, Melissa. Hi, brother. Better to just call and find another hotel in the area because the hotel that I had some friends at, they actually got fired. They don't work there anymore. So there's a lot of hotels around here, and I'm sure you can find a good one. And yeah, we can meet up next week, Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, what have you, and have a coffee. I know some good places we can sit and spend some time together. So I'm looking forward to it. That sounds good, brother. Do you plan to pick me up from the airport? And there's also some things going on in Sydney uh, in the next few days after I arrive where we could go to together. And I hope that you are able to get into that retreat. And I'm also thinking of maybe trying to attend a retreat in Australia as well when I'm there. Still alive here in Vietnam and headed to Australia next month. So hope everything's going well with you in Thailand. Because as much as we, like have any sense of control or ability to manage our lives or to go in a particular direction, we also don't, just as much. And I think if we can first start to work with the principle of just as much, then we can move into the neither or, so it's not equal, it's not superior, it's not more than, it's not less than, it's not equal to. And this principle of irrelevance when it comes to things is very important, but we may have to like cancel out some of our our ideas or our habit energies towards control or lack of control before we can get over and get through the whole idea of control. Because depression or anxiety or going through something, it's a temporary mental state. And in the Western culture or modern philosophical point of view, we have the idea, well, you're going to live a whole life, and, maybe you've got this sickness or this problem that keeps coming up, so you really have to deal with it and you have to solve it. Um, and you can work with it in that way. But the way that I choose to work with it as a Zen Buddhist is through detachment. So you don't have to fix it as much as you have to detach from that. You don't have to solve it as much as you have to abandon it. Um, because this present moment, this now, for you is untenable, uncontrollable, unmanageable, hopeless in all ways for someone, for the self, for the identity, and we live in such a way, especially with modern medicine and modern conveniences, where it seems pretty for sure that we'll be able to live out the scope of our lives. But for many people, most people, for everyone, it doesn't work that way. Death is waiting behind every moment, behind every second. Sickness is waiting for everyone. So instead of building up this aggrandized view of, our ability to feel pleasure and avoid pain, we can look more deeply into this direct experience and open up the box of boxlessness. Think the thought of thoughtlessness, and that puts us into a place of pondering, that puts us into a place of deep questioning or contemplation that's really at the root of meditation. Rather than mentation, just thinking about things. You know, car accidents are called accidents for a reason. They're not planned. In the same way, enlightenment or insight or becoming free from this view of self in the hopeless now also cannot be planned or managed or created. It's kind of like an accident, accidentally not thinking, accidentally not being a part of a story, accidentally not holding on to an identity. You have the blanket? Blanket?
Oh, please.
Yeah,
Okay.
blanket.
Okay.
Thank you. Because let's be honest, it's not going to be enough for us to be peaceful. We are going to want immediately to be more peaceful. It's not going to be enough for us to be enlightened, whatever that is. We're going to want to be more enlightened. So look at that wanting. Look at that seeking to become now. And just experience. Just breathe. Give it a break, give it a rest with wakefulness. We were listening to a really wonderful old lady, Zen master, Zen teacher, recently, and she was saying very specifically that Zazen or Zen meditation is not thinking. So you have to be open to not thinking to meditate, to do that kind of real meditation. But that not thinking is a certain kind of connection to the absolute, connection to the fundamental. So, how does not thinking and that experience of not thinking apply, or what relevance does it hold to thoughts, to all thoughts? And you have to experience that for yourself. That's how you open up your Dharma eye, your wisdom eye, your selfless eye, your Buddha eye, your Bodhisattva eye. There's even stories. I met a guy once online named Jack Wes. Apparently, he's a disciple of Henry Schuckman. And he was taking a shower, when he was a younger man or something like that, and he had this enlightenment experience, the way he talked about it. And he said he didn't think for like weeks, like all of his thinking stopped for weeks, and seemed to be super enlightened. And there was a health scare. Something came up with his health, and all of that ego, all of that identity, all of those thought structures came back. So it truly is untenable. Um, it truly is hopeless. For you, for me. I would say no I is hope. No thinking is right thinking. No view is right view. No action is right action. This is to sign a non-competition clause. That's what we're doing when we show up and we widen out and we brighten out. We sign a not thinking clause, or a non-competition clause based on non-thinking, based on the principles of non-thinking. But there's a belief, whatever a belief is. I was pondering about that a little bit today, but there's a belief in this need to think. And what that means is that we oftentimes perpetuate thinking when it's not necessary to perpetuate thinking, which keeps us locked into that habit energy of depression, that identity of having something wrong with you. So if you believe, if you think, if you keep thinking there's something wrong with you, then there will be. then you will find the reasoning and the justification, and you will put yourself in a position to keep thinking that there's something wrong with you, and you'll experience life that way. This then is to break out from the prison cell or the prism of thinking. The highest forms of thinking, like full-on visualization and spiritual phenomena and spiritual experiences, to the lowest level of thinking of being frustrated because that cappuccino wasn't good enough, or because we don't dare to let go when we can, because we think that it's necessary to keep holding on when it's not, when you can't. You can't keep holding on. You can't keep telling a story. You can't fit into the box that you create for yourself. That's why we need to go out of the construct of box that's been created if we want to realize boxlessness. Even Siddhartha Gautama, before he became the Buddha, he had to leave the box of princeliness. We want it to get a lot better, right? But the betterness is a disaster because it's carrying its opposite with it. The better it is, the more you have to protect it, the more you have to hoard over it. Ha 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 ha. Showing off. Well, I hope everyone can be as lucky and as blessed as Shelley. Because it's kind of, it's this situation where the only chance to reify the I, to hold up the I in what we're doing here, is based on wearing the number one headband. So as long as you can make sure that this just isn't a personal training, but actually competitive in nature, you can nullify the I-ness in your success. That's why our teachers, our community, the practice itself is so important. That's a little bit of a deep track, but it works for me, you know, because you don't want to create this spiritual identity of being enlightened. That spiritual identity of being enlightened only applies together with other identities that are concerned with enlightenment. And then you bring in these guidelines of playing fair or acting according to conditions, not just making up this idea about, well, I feel pretty fine, so I must be the king of the castle. Well, this is a universal paradigm, universal situation. So the moment you put yourself into a story, whatever that story is, you've gone beyond hopelessness into the experience of the disaster of separation. So watch out for you putting yourself into a story, and instead go back to the direct experiencing. It's not really good for making profit, because you don't want the lack of you. It's impossible. So you can't profit through this. It's not profit based. Here, this is the profit of feeling good. We just equate money with feeling good, so we get the two confused, or we combine them. And as we've been hearing from some meditation masters, bona fide, well-known advisors recently, is that the best meditation feels bad. Just as a principle, not as a practice, trying to feel bad. But by exercising that principle of being open to not feeling bad, then you get to the higher principle of the betterness of not feeling good or bad, or not being about feeling good or bad, the irrelevance of good and bad. And you can realize that, in fact, the irrelevance of good and bad. But because we don't practice seriously, that realization is very shallow. And that realization doesn't really belong to anyone, but that's higher up the ladder on principles. The principle of non-belonging. Well, once someone hears about not someone directly, they may be quite surprised about how important nobody is. Look, I'm a poet. Excuse me for a moment. That's very silly, AIC. So just turn your meditation more into opening rather than contracting around the focusing. Open to the badness, open to the directness of the experiencing of the badness, and and also the opening to the directness of the experiencing of you feeling bad about the feeling badness. Ah. On star, you're behind me. High above the chimney top, that's where you'll find me. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow. Wake up where the clouds are far behind me. Have a world like a lemon drop high above the chimney top. That's where you find me. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and darling, come true. I believe it. Not really, but I appreciate that. Listen, there's nothing wrong with being a clown. There's even less wrong with being nobody. It's all love, sister. And if it's not all love, then we will have to be the love. There is something in each of you that you will only be able to perceive when you turn around. So, how does one turn around? By non seeking, seeking. Seeking without seeking. This is precisely what people find hard to deal with or get into. How can you seek if you are not seeking? How can you not seek if you are seeking? If you only seek, how is that different from pursuing sounds and chasing forms? If you do not seek at all, how are you different from inert matter? You must seek, and yet without seeking. Not seek, yet still seek. If you can manage to penetrate this, you will then manage to harmonize seeking and non-seeking. So it is said, non-seeking, non-seeking. The body of reality is perfectly quiescent. Seeking, seeking, responsive function does not miss. Seeking without seeking, non-seeking, seeking. Objects and cognition merge. Substance and function are one. Therefore, you find the three bodies of Buddha, the four knowledges, the five eyes, and six spiritual powers all come to light from this. Students must be able to turn around and search all the way through in this way before they can attain realization. A seeker asked Yang Shan, "What special pathway do you have? Please point it out to me." It's a little bit romantic. Yang Shan said, "If I said there is anything in particular or nothing in particular, I would confuse you even more. Where are you from?" The seeker said he was from such and such a place. Yang Shan asked, "Do you still think of that place?" The seeker replied, "I think of it all the time." Yang Shan said, "What you think of are the buildings, towers, and habitations, of which there are a variety. Now think back to what thinks. Is there a variety of things there?" The seeker replied, "There is no variety of things there." Yang Shan said, "Based on your perception, you have only attained one mystery. You have a seat and are wearing clothes. Hereafter, see for yourself." This seeker said that the object of thought is varied, while the thinker is not varied. This view is biased. This is what prompted Yang Shan to say he had only attained one mystery. His perception of the path was not accurate. If you ask me, the object of thought, with a variety of buildings and houses, is in fact not various, while the unvaried thinking subject is in fact various. This can be demonstrated. Right now, there is a variety before your eyes. There are not so many of these. There are similarly many types of the unvaried. When the seer Bishomatakong Gosha took the seeker Sudana by the hand, Sudana saw Buddhas as numerous as atoms in infinite worlds. When the seer let go of Sudana's hand, everything was as it had been before. Now, how do you understand this reversion to normal on the release of the hand? You'd better understand. So it's very dangerous to talk about these things. Um, but we can still listen and share. as advanced can be, as simple can be, as full of value as value can be, as lacking in value as valuelessness can be. That's the way out. I hope. I don't know. I really don't know. But we can try to be a little bit more, I think I can be a little bit more willing to let go and a little bit more willing to hang on when it makes sense. Okay. Namaste, friends. That's all for now. See you again soon. Take care.